Hello and welcome to Salubrious Skin with Dr. Irene podcast. This podcast is all about how to attain healthier skin. You may be struggling with a skin condition such as psoriasis or eczema or acne, or perhaps a condition that causes the skin to become unhealthy, such as PCOS or irritable bowel or Crohn's disease. Regardless of what your condition is, healthy skin is attained by having a healthy body. So my mission is about bringing a huge array of experts to your attention in various areas of health. I hope you find this information knowledgeable and insightful and helpful for your specific journey in having better health. Remember to always connect with us through Facebook at Dr. Irene Prantelos, Psoriasis and Healthy Skin. You can email me at info@salubre.com.au. I hope you enjoy the show, and please feel free to give us any sort of insight into what you feel you need to hear in future episodes. Hello and welcome to Salubrious Skin with Dr. Irene. Today I'm joined by a regular, and the reason why she's a regular is because I can't get enough of her, let's be honest. Cheryne's wisdom is just something that creates so much thought in me, and I hope it does the same for you, because in our life we're always trying to better ourselves and improve from our circumstances and learn from our situation and become better, healthier people. And today came about because I was actually listening to Will Smith on Instagram, and I started following him, and he was talking about basically having people around you that ignite your fire and not piss on your flame. That was his words, right?
Love it.
So I thought to myself, and this isn't something I say as well, I always say, have supportive people around you. Don't have people that drag you down. If you want to fly like an eagle, then you soar with the eagles. You create that environment around you. But what I've come to realize in myself, and perhaps some patients I'm speaking to, is that you've kind of outgrown some friendships, and perhaps they've dissipated and dissolved. And you find yourself as an adult looking for people that are like-minded, but it's a lot harder to find these friendships and create friendships in people that already have loads of friendships. So I thought, who else do I speak to but Cheryne? Cheryne is a master of creating a solution from a problem. So I reached out and I said, you've got to help me do this podcast, because I don't know the answer to this. I always tell people they should be doing this, but I don't necessarily give them tips on how to do it, because I'm kind of in that space myself of trying to create, a network of people around me that are more of where I am now versus of where I was perhaps 20 years ago. So welcome, Cheryne, a long introduction.
Thank you for having me back.
It's such an honor, and I really appreciate you making yourself available when I know you're super busy with family and work and everything else in between. So, but I really thought you can tap into this and dissect it and create a solution in a way that people will resonate with. So I thought, who else can I speak to? I mean, there's no one else I can speak to. So thank you again. So, okay, let's just maybe start from the beginning. Let's say if someone is finding they haven't gotten rid of the friendships as yet, but they are finding the feeling that they've outgrown. They get together with girlfriends or their mates, and they're listening to conversations that just, are grinding on them. They don't want to hear it. This is not something, we haven't moved on from high school kind of thing. I feel like I'm always going back in time when I see these people. I've obviously got some love and caring for them, so I do want to see them, but at the same time, it's not feeding my soul.
Yeah.
What does someone do in that situation? What would you say?
Well, I really think, it's quite interesting, because on the day where you messaged me to say, can we do this podcast, I had a really amazing conversation with 3 different friends. And the Friday night prior to you messaging me, I had a dinner party at my place, and 3 of the people afterwards called me after the day after, and they said, I just want to tell you that I really enjoyed last night. Like the energy was so positive and you've really got nice friends. And I said to them, I said, this has been a process. It's a process of what I kind of call deliberate deletion and conscious creation. In the sense that, I myself went through a sifting process of eliminating, what was beginning to feel quite toxic. And I think to answer your question, we need to kind of go back in a sense of, first we have to understand, when do we recognize that a relationship is toxic, or when do we recognize that we've outgrown a relationship? And one of the fastest ways to really recognize that is to notice how you're feeling when you're with certain people. So for example, if you're with a certain crowd of people, like you said, it feels like we're back at high school and we're having the same conversation. When you start to feel yourself drained, like literally like you've pulled your plug out and you can feel all your energy, that vital life force being drained out of you. What would you call them? The chi vampires.
Yeah.
That's the first sign of, wow, this just doesn't feel right anymore, because the energy is mismatching. And so what that means is, the minute we start to feel that drain, it's kind of like a catalyst to say, is this relationship, is this energy right for me? And what is it that's draining me? And what that means is, our growth is determined by a few things, but one of the determinants of our growth are our values. And when we go through life changes, so for example, we go to university, we get married, we have children, we may go through a divorce, all different life experiences change our values. And
right.
When our values change, our values are like our measure for, what we really are and what we take as right and wrong and what we are attracted to and not attracted to. So when our values change, it means that whole lens, that whole perceptual lens of the world changes, and who we once were is not the same person, which means the friendships that we made in a stage in our life no longer suit who we have become.
Yep.
They no longer align with those values.
Yeah.
And that's going to cause a value clash in us, which is going to kind of, it starts to feel like, for me, it's like I just start to feel really tired around certain people. Like it just starts to feel like hard work.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a sign to let me know my nervous system's gone into stress and that the energy is not matched.
Yeah.
And so it's a really important sign to understand that. And it's not a judgment at that other person.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like there's certain people that become toxic. So like people, for example, who are, trapped in self-pity and trapped in victim mentality. And, you've done a lot of work yourself, for example, and, you've moved on.
Yeah.
You don't want to be stuck in that. You don't want to be stuck in the past. You want to kind of experience where you are now.
Yeah.
So the first sign is really to start to notice that drain.
Yeah.
Notice that kind of, feeling that I'm not quite aligned here. This doesn't feel quite right. And to start kind of questioning, what is it? What is it that's draining me? What is it that I'm not liking? How have my values changed? All those kind of questions open up to a different level of awareness. So there were a few kind of things you talked about there.
Yeah.
So I'll just kind of stop there, let you check in there before we go on.
I'm just thinking, as people may be listening, they might be thinking, well, these are the friends I've had all my life. If I don't hang out with these people, then who will I spend my time with? I'll become lonely and possibly isolated. Or it may even be that, well, a few of them I feel like that towards, but the other couple I really feel great and I still want to see them, and I can't make them choose me over the others. So it can kind of get a little messy. So I guess, again, I kind of touched on several aspects. The fear of being alone, or the fear of causing disruption in the group as well.
Or hurting people. You know, a lot of people kind of don't want to, you know, we've been trained to be nice, good people and, you know, kind of compromise ourselves a lot of the time. So, you know, all those things kind of, you know, come at play. And, you know, I think that, first of all, if we look at the loneliness, what we're talking about is creating balance, because it's not going to be about just going, I just delete you out of my life and move on. Sorry, something's come into my screen.
That's right. I can't see it.
Okay. It's like, suddenly I can't see you. I've got a pop up in my screen. It's, you know, it's not about just kind of immediately just going, can't see you anymore, I'm done. You know, this is going to be a process. And, you know, what that means is that, you know, it's very much about looking at what kind of floats my boat now. What am I attracted to? What are my values now? And, you know, how can I venture out? How can I, you know, it's again, we're either going to be stuck in that victim mentality and say, oh, I'm alone and I don't have any more friends, or we're going to be proactive and we're going to do something about us.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, it's like, it's that classic kind of law of attraction, in that sense of like attracts like. So the more clarity we get around, well, who am I now? And what do I want? And who do I want to be with? And what makes me feel happy and fun? And we start to kind of put ourselves in that direction, we're going to meet people. And that's going to kind of, you know, kind of negate that social isolation, because that's a really big problem. It's a really big concern. And that to avoid that social isolation and that loneliness, we'll often just go, oh, well, what the hell? Let me just meet with them anyway because they're available. You know what I mean? Let me stay in this relationship because I don't want to be alone. And you know, that's when we kind of continue to kind of sabotage ourselves.
Sorry, sorry to interrupt, but did you want to finish what you were doing?
No.
Okay. I was having a chat with my cousin who I'm really close to. I don't see her often, but you know, when we do connect, you know, it's always great. And she made a comment. She goes to me, Irene, you get rid of people really easily. And it's just stuck with me. And I thought to myself, do I, is it my fault? Do I find I get bored with a friendship? But then I started realizing that I like to help people. You know, it's obviously what I do every day and all that sort of thing. But then it comes to a point where I am drawn to these friendships where they're a little needy, which I like, I guess, subconsciously. This is just been my awareness of late. And so I like helping them. But then I start realizing I set the foundation where it's this, you know, uneven energy that's translated through them always needing me and me giving, and then I find myself exhausted every time I see them. So then I get that point of exhausted. Well, I can't have anyone make me sick. I'm just going to get rid of you, because there's no way I'm going to get sick over anyone else. So then I get into this sort of annoyed mode and just go, right, well, I just can't see that person anymore. They're too draining. They're too exhausting. I can't do it. And so I thought, yeah, well, you're right. I mean, you do get rid of people a lot easier, but I think my issue was I was finding the same friendships every time.
Yeah. And probably like if that is validating your self-worth by being the, you know, the person who wants to help people, that you're going to continue to attract that, right?
Yeah.
Like that's going to be a role that you're going to submit to in all your relationships. And that's really great awareness for you to recognize, because what you can do is begin to kind of step back and say, you know, I can start to enjoy people rather than, you know, help them and fix them, which is going to feel like less work, you know, and just kind of step back and, you know, have you as the therapist in your work and as friendships, you're just present with a person. And that kind of makes us a little bit more compassionate and, you know, more tolerant of people. You know, again, when you're in like a healing modality, you're kind of like, hey, this is really easy. Like just move on. You know what I mean? And we tend to kind of want to go into that healing mode where, you know, for our own kind of self-preservation, we do need to kind of step back and go, I'm going to be the friend now. Like I'm going to be the friend and also allow people to need me. So it's that reciprocity of giving and receiving. And knowing how to balance that as well.
Yeah, I think that's been really interesting, because I guess I didn't put myself in the place of friend.
Yeah.
I was always putting my place of helping people.
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't realize I've been doing this for as long as I can remember. And it's only literally come to my awareness in the last year.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great awareness.
I was like, oh my God, I was getting the same person just in a different body every time.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. We'll keep on attracting that because, that's what we're filtering in.
Yeah.
Because that there's a comfort in what we know.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll default into that pattern and, and with the awareness. And once you start to feel that drain again, that's when you break it. And, in that instance, it's not necessarily of saying, oh, well, I'm just going to move away from that person, but maybe I can shift the dynamic of the relationship as well. And that means having different conversations.
Yeah.
Taking the conversations in a different way that normally go, like, for example, being the one, for example, that's not going to gossip. That's not going to just focus on the negative, but, have a positive conversation, for example. That's going to shift the energy. And that's also going to give your control back around certain friendships.
Yeah. I think, the most recent situation for me, and this is a therapy session, was more about the conversations we were having were centered around, I guess kind of the acts someone does when they're a wife. So, cleaning and cooking and all this is a little bit of a yawn for me.
Yeah.
Because I kind of don't see myself as a wifey. I just,
Well, again, that's a different value for you, right?
Yeah.
So that's, again, it's going to be the mismatch.
Boring me to tears. And then having this whole thing of, I've got this problem, that problem. And it was just getting too much for me. And I was just like, hey, you're not a bad person. I'm not a bad person. But I feel like my IQ's dropping like considerably. And it's not any disrespect for her because she does value that. I know she values, having a partner and value, making a beautiful dinner and really values helping clean the house. Like these are really big things for her because she's quite traditional in her thought process. And
that's where we can be compassionate to another person's values, and just knowing, okay, the clash that I'm feeling now is that I don't value that.
And would you say that to someone? Would you say, hey, I really understand what you're talking about and these are really strong values you have, but I just don't share those? Would you bring that to their awareness? Or
it's really about your intention of what you want that friendship to be. So, for example, that may be where you just take on the listening role.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And you're just there to that's kind of just playing compassion.
Yeah.
In the sense of, okay, I'm just listening. I don't necessarily need to respond back with the same story. I can listen and I can kind of go on to that level or just connect with her as she wants in that friendship space.
Yeah.
Not needing to add to it in any way, but just being present with her in that way. And I think that is able to be achieved when we balance it. So what I mean by that is that when we can feed when we have friendships that feed our soul, then it's like our love tanks are fuel, and we have the fuel to be present in those relationships that don't necessarily build us. We can kind of just be present with that. And so, looking, like you said, as an adult, how do we build these friendships? And, a really great strategy is, first of all, to get to know your values. So get to know your values, listen intuitively to what you are drawn to. So for example, like when I was single, one of the things when I separated and kind of was like, I need new friends, I've got no one to play with, it's like when you have a mother's group, when you have a baby, you go to mother's group and that becomes your play group and you're with people that you relate to that are going through the same thing. Yeah. So I was like, oh, who can I go to? And a friend dragged me along one night to salsa, right? To one of the salsa classes. Okay. And that became a beautiful playground. It was actually something which was so healing. It was exercise. I could go there alone if my other friends weren't available. Yeah. And I met a whole group of wonderful people because we shared the passion of dancing. And at the same time, afterwards, we'd go get drinks, we'd go get coffee, we caught up other events and things like that. And so I kind of built a friendship circle around that.
Okay.
Same with other things, like when I became passionate about yoga or, walking things, doing walking groups, going to study coaching again or other courses where I found like-minded people. Because if you go to where you feel drawn and you're honoring that value, you're going to find people that are on the same page as you. And so you can create yourself a community of people that really feed your soul, and top you up, so that you don't need anything from those other relationships. Because if you don't need them, then you can just be present with it and can just be, now I just need to be, on the giving side, for example. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the end of the day, we all need to feel certain needs fulfilled.
Yeah.
And once they are, then I guess you're more able to manage a friendship that doesn't necessarily give you what you want, but because you respect that friendship and that person, you're happy for it to continue. But
and if we're depleted in ourselves, we can't give anything, because those type of friendships require us to give. Right? Being a listener is a giving, active role, where you have to sit and listen and still stay engaged and make a person feel accepted and loved and honored and heard, so that's a really giving role. But if we don't have any oxygen or fuel in our tank, and that's where, like, if you can, find, in your self-care space of what you can do to really fuel yourself up. And, I made some notes before we started today, and I was thinking another really great strategy is Facebook groups. Like I've met some really great people in Facebook groups where it's like, you don't even have to go out anywhere. They're all over the world. And we've all started, like, where you can create conversations and, especially a Facebook group of, something that you're into, like I have different business groups and all different kind of groups that I'm in, speak to and start to connect with some of those people on a personal level, because everybody's there searching for the same thing, searching for that connection. And that's, that's what we want. We want to be understood. We want to be seen. We want to be understood. And we all want to connect on that level. But it's kind of finding the right form. And those Facebook groups are another really great way to, as a play group.
And I think, being really clear with your values, I think, is probably the first step, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think we kind of can say, oh yeah, I value this, this, and this. But when you actually really look deep down and identify what you really want like my thing, once I realized that, I said to myself, okay, I need a mutually beneficial friendship. I need a friend that's there for me while I'm there for them. Like I'm happy to be there for them. I'm certainly happy to do that. But I also need that reciprocated. And it may not necessarily be that I need them to do anything for me. It's just, being present and available and not one-sided, which is what I've kind of, I don't know if it was one-sided or just, I think it's just the draining. I think it's just being drained.
And there are certain, like, coming back to what I was sharing at the beginning of our conversation, like with my little dinner party that I had, there were certain relationships that I did have to sift out. I did have to say, this is toxic. Like, I'm really, I'm feeling really drained afterwards, or I'd feel really thrown for a couple days after being around a person.
So what's your classification of toxic? Because I know people would possibly go, toxic would be someone perhaps being nasty or violent, but it doesn't have to actually be that bad, doesn't it?
Look, and I think for all of us, we're going to see toxicity as something different, again, depending on your values. Like for me, because one of my highest values is growth, and I'm very committed to being proactive with my growth, and I'm not a victim. For me, self-pity becomes very, very toxic. And it's not to say that I don't want to be there for a friend, because we all need that unconditional dumping ground to say, I just need to just offload, right? But, when a person is continuously just stuck in that victim, and, you can almost feel it that that it feeds their like attention. And that it's an attention strategy, and that, they're just giving. They're just taking, and not giving and not moving forward.
Yeah.
That becomes very toxic. A person that has a lot of anger and negativity towards, other people, and, gossiping, and that also can become really toxic.
Yeah.
A person that's stuck in a behavior that you've moved past.
Yeah.
That's
true. Yeah.
One of the most difficult things that I faced was, I went on I was like, no alcohol for 7 years of my life. Right. And that was so confronting. And it really made me, I had to let go of certain friendships, because certain people were like, let's catch up for a few drinks. And their value was, especially like on a Friday night, we're just going to go and, get smashed and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, I cannot be around alcohol anymore. You know what I mean? It's not a value of mine. It's not, it's toxic in itself. Yeah. And so, I just couldn't be around that behavior anymore.
Yeah. It's interesting, because I think it's important for people to know that it's not about them being wrong or you being right. It's just simply where you are in this stage of your life
and what you are valuing. Again, I'm not judging that. For me, that was important for me, that I made that decision not to have alcohol in my life. And that just meant like you said, it's going to be boring. It's not going to be fun. I'd rather go to a yoga class than go to a bar, so, and people would probably judge me for that, and think I'm a bit crazy.
Both ways, doesn't it? Like they might go, oh, look at Cheryne, what's she doing? Like, what, not drinking alcohol, what's her thing about?
Like, especially in Australia, you can't trust a person if they don't drink in Australia.
Well, I'm clearly untrustable, because I haven't had a drink since I was 18, and that's 25 years or something.
You're no fun.
I'm certainly no fun. I used to get that a lot going out, don't drink, don't smoke. Oh, so what do you do? Because that's clearly the only two activities.
Yeah. And that's another thing that's going to make you feel toxic, if you feel judged by a person. You know what I mean? So if we have those friends that just kind of whatever, if they're making comments at us and we go, you don't uplift me. What was that quote by Will Smith? You're pissing on my flame. I liked that. That was really great.
He's pretty good to follow.
He's got some great things.
Yeah, I do like him as an actor. I do watch. I mean, haven't watched all his movies, but if he's in a movie, I'd be more likely to watch it. But yeah, it was more of an insight. Like, well, I say this to people too, and then I go, bye. And don't actually give them any resources to carry that through. It's much easier said than done, get rid of toxic people and get a new bunch of people. But the reality is that, either people are already set in their friendships, so they don't necessarily want any other new friendships, or it's just, not necessarily finding time to go to those groups of interest. So yoga class, and I'll be honest, when I go to the gym, I'm like, go to the gym and leave. I might have a chat here and there, very seldomly, but I kind of want to get home to my little one, so I don't really socialize. But I do see groups of people that get together afterwards for a coffee and have a social gathering. But and look, it's really important, because what it means is that we have to be responsible for our energy, what we spend with our time, how we have our thoughts. We are responsible for that, and that means we're responsible for our choices. And that's going to be a very discerning choice around who you are going to share your energy with, and who you're going to give your energy to. And I think that's that it's a term that I once heard was sacred selfishness, in the sense that, we have to recognize that friendships are part of our self-care and well-being plan. And they're going to uplift us if we're in the right energy, or they're going to drain us if we're in, mismatched energy. And I think, I guess I wasn't mindful of friendships. I've never been mindful. It's almost like, oh, you want to be friends? Sure. Okay, no worries. And I even remember one of my friends at high school, whenever we had someone new come, I always would say to them, even if they didn't stay with us, I'd always say, come and have lunch with us. Yeah. my friend turned to me once and goes, "You always bring the rejects here." And I was like,
the underdogs.
so mean. Like,
Yeah.
if this person's new, they probably just want someone to have lunch with. So,
Yeah.
But I think now that I'm older, I'm going to try and teach or, provide a little bit of insight to my little boy of just being a little bit more aware of the friendships he acquires, because I hear of people where they've had friendships from the time they were in nappies and still current, and I go, wow, I've been through so many friendships in that time. And I think I've never been mindful of a friendship. It's more like, okay, it's convenient, you live close, or we go to the same school, or we go to the same uni, and it's kind of established from there. So what tips could you give young ones? So perhaps someone who is, I don't know if I've got any listeners that are in primary school, maybe their parents could share to their children. What sort of tips would you tell your child to encourage them to make, I guess, better choices in friendships, if that makes sense?
Yeah. And I think, especially if we look at, especially around that, your, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, your levels 3, 4, and 5 at school. I always call that the bitch stage,
Oh, right.
And, it's kind of when the bitch comes out. And I think that if you, instead of being in a certain crowd or being with people because you need friends, and, I think it's also going to come, there's so many factors there, because it's also going to come down, are you an introverted person or an extroverted person? Because some people don't need people as much as other people do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's going to be very much about be true to yourself. Be true to yourself. Like, are you around people that make you feel good about yourself? Or you're around people that, make you feel competitive, or make you feel that you're not good enough, or make you feel judged, and have the courage. Like, that's going to take a lot of courage to kind of break through those barriers of saying, well, I don't want to be with them just because I want to be included in things. I want to be with people because they make me feel good,
And I think that's what's tough when you're young, because, school is such a institution where you feel like there's no other part of the world. It's really just school. Like, the world outside school does not exist, and you feel like you're there forever.
And that's your tribe in that sense, in that time of life, And I think the other thing is, like you said, mindfulness of the friendship. So mindful of what you're giving and what you're receiving, and what you need of that friendship, and what you can take from that friendship, and what you can give in that friendship. And I think, again, even that kind of deepens the connections, and kind of lets us have a lot more clarity in those roles as well.
I did speak to a patient about this once, and she said, you meet the parents and you see the parents that you get along with, and you can kind of encourage your child to make those choices. Is that something that you found as well with your children?
You mean to make their own, for them to look at what friends suit them, you mean, or socializing with their parents?
Well, it's almost like you would meet the parents and found you could socialize with them. So as a result, the kids socialized as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, a lot of the times, that's what kind of, I would create like social environments. And I think if you can model socialization very early on with your kids, then they learn how to socialize. And that's a modeled behavior, So I did try to kind of socialize with my kids, as much as I can, even when it didn't come natural to me in my, when I kind of just felt like being an introvert, or just felt like being them, I kind of did. And with some of the friendships, they really clicked, where so I tried to kind of model how to create friendships, but then let them kind of be attracted to who they also, who they needed to be, and encourage them to contribute, and to make plans, and to make that effort into the friendship. And I think that's what we need to kind of encourage, and just to be kind and tolerant with each other is what we really want to teach our kids as well.
I think that's great. You've definitely provided a little bit of clarity in me. So share with the listeners a few. I know you've got a few projects going, and there's a couple of ways they can reach out to you. Share with them what you're doing at the moment, I guess.
Okay. Well, my coaching business is called Be You Be True. That website is beyoubetru.com.au. So, you can, have a look on the website. I do coaching and workshops. I have a retreat coming up in June. It's actually a couples retreat, which is really, really, it's really an amazing forum, and it's up in northern New South Wales, in absolute luxury beach resort.
Nice.
And that's also really lovely for couples to have a space to work on themselves and also meet other like-minded couples. So there's also great friendships that are formed because, again, normally what happens is people attract, themselves in the retreat. So it's a really good space as well. And I also have an online learning program, an online learning platform called Mindful Mummies. And that is mindfulmummies.com.au. And that's got mindfulness tips for mums. It's got a 7-day meditation course that's like $7. That's just an easy meditation course. There's 5 steps to calm. Mindful Mummies is all about developing our calm self so that we can be our best mums and be the best version of ourselves. And then, of course, I also have my podcast, which is called Peace in My Pocket. It's a meditation meditation podcast. So it's just got guided meditations that you can download on iTunes, on the podcast app, and they're also on the Be You Be True website that you can have a listen to, and those are always great. I mean, I'm a real firm believer in meditation and topping ourselves up with meditation.
And that's where all the insight comes, doesn't it? When you're in that calm state of mind, that's where all your gems come to surface and to your awareness. So incorporating meditation on a daily basis is actually beneficial for your own personal growth and realization of where you're heading and what you need to do. So
in fact, and I actually recorded a new meditation that I'm going to be releasing in a couple of weeks once it's edited, of like negative energy clearing, which will kind of be great for anybody that feels they're around friendships and need to be clear. They can do a energy clearing meditation. So
that's fantastic.
I'll have that available.
Let me know
soon.
when you've released that, and I can put it up on Facebook.
Well, I hope that's answer some great content.
Definitely.
There's one more quote that I'll leave the listeners with. I saw this quote it was either Instagram or Facebook, and it said something along the lines of, soulmates tend to always find each other because they have the same hiding place. And I love that. And I think that if you can allow yourself to be drawn, to be, proactive with what you are attracted to and what really floats your boat and what you're interested in, you'll find those, like-minded people that you can put an effort into building some nice friendships that are going to uplift you and feed your soul.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so true, Cheryne. Thank you again for your time. It's actually been really helpful for me as well, because this is something that I guess I'm kind of evolving and trying to realize where I'm heading and making changes to previous choices and not finding myself in the same situation as I previously have. So thank you for your time, and be sure to check out the websites that you mentioned, and also stay tuned for more episodes of Salubrious Skin with Dr. Irene, and don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments below. Always love hearing your feedback and anything you feel you need to hear or we've missed today. Let us know and we'll get it out to you in a short period of time. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.